Welcome, everyone. I'm Robert Menzies, the CAMA National Chairperson. We are pleased to present the third year of CAMA's Next in Agri-Food webinar series. And today we're talking about trends in agri-marketing, the 5.0 edition with David Lazarenko. The Next in Agri-Food series continues to be an example of our living out our evolved mandates of representing Canada's entire food system from farm to fork. CAMA, as many of you know, is made up of provincial chapters that work hard to provide the opportunity for members to connect with other agri-food marketers right across the country to grow their skills and passion for marketing and communications within the agri-food system. By being a CAMA member, you can reap these benefits and many more. Our final website, this is our third of four that David's going to be leading us on, but our final one takes place on the April 18th with Sean Haney and Justin Funk. Love these guys with Rail Agri Studies as they discuss various approaches to and uses of farmer research and how it can benefit a company's go-to-market initiatives. So anytime that we can apply some market research from farmers in particular into our strategies, I think is a win for us. And you heard it here first. I'm about to announce our second annual CAMA Level Up Conference. Many of you hopefully were there last year and will be excited to come again this year. We're bringing together the best of Canada's agri-food marketers and communicating professionals for a one-of-a-kind event featuring interactive learnings, engaging networking, and industry recognition of the best in agri-food. Let's take a listen to what people said about the 2023 conference.
I think the CAMA conference and the Best of CAMA brings together agri-marketers from all over the country with a common goal to network, to learn from one another. And it's really the place, the forum in Canada that brings all those people together under one roof for a couple of days just to celebrate our industry and really honor the best of what we do.
Well, I think I would encourage more producers to come because they need to share their voices, but also the people that are at the CAMA conference are those that are going to come up with the marketing and the plan for agriculture marketing, for agri-food, and for multinationals and for farmers themselves. So the more we can have that group of people mingling and coming up with strategies, the better it is for the industry.
What we're finding now is that things are moving so fast that all of us have to collaborate to understand what the next generation will look like, and we're building that together. And so I fundamentally believe that in order for us all to rise, we have to raise each other up. And these are what these conferences are intended to do. Networking is extremely important in agriculture, but we need to bring more people to the party, and we need much, much more diversity in agriculture. Just like the rest of the world, this is what we really need to be doing in these associations.
Speakers were top quality, the networking was great, and the ability to rub shoulders with others in the marketing industry is really important because, hey, we're all in this together. Getting together with really smart people in the room, like-minded people to learn and to share ideas, to encourage each other, to me is priceless.
Grow your career, if you want to develop business, if you want to understand and learn more about this fascinating world of agri-food marketing and communications, it's the place to be.
We had a few primary producers who were actually here today, in addition to a lot of marketing folks from big corporations and smaller agencies. So it's really great just to see everyone in the room, lots of thought leadership, lots of great conversations in between the sessions.
I think meeting new people is key. Building a network is how one can build a business. And I think in marketing, with so much changing, being able to talk to other people, listen to other people, hear about their successes, their failures, there's always nuggets and insights that one can pull away and directly apply to your business.
There's so much to learn. People are giving away advice at conferences like these. We're exchanging ideas of things that we do. It's really a great melting pot of good ideas, great content, and an incredible network.
I think that being able to make connections in really kind of a safe environment, quite honestly, where there's people from all different walks of life doing various things within the marketing communication strategic aspect of Agri-Food is really refreshing and something that I really appreciate connecting with others.
Stay connected, stay inspired, and let's continue to level up the industry.
The 2024 conference is designed to add immediate value to both your professional development and your marketing investments. You'll hear from speakers from across the value chain, from producer to retailer to multinational companies. And of course, a non-agri-food marketing leader will bring insights from other industries. Learn from the next generation of marketers via the CAMA student case competition, featuring some of the brightest minds from post-secondary institutions, and connect one-on-one with potential mentors, partners, clients, vendors, in planned one-on-ones speed networking settings throughout the day. And cap off the event with Best of CAMA Gala events, showcasing the best in agri-food communications and marketing for the year. And of course, we need sponsors who want to position their organization alongside the latest in agri-food marketing and with the brightest in our industry. So call or email Mary Thornley for package details. And thanks to Bayer Crop Science, Federated Cooperatives, and CCAN, who have already confirmed their sponsorship commitment. So we very much thank those three leading organizations. Registration is about to go live, so watch your inbox and social media for details. We look forward to seeing you in Calgary on November 6th and 7th. And if you haven't already, please follow us on X and LinkedIn to easily see what's happening across the country in the industry from your fellow agri-food marketers. We'd like to thank our webinar series sponsors for the Next in Agri-Food series, CABIF, which is the non-profit organization that provides scholarships to Canadian students who are pursuing agri-food post-secondary education, and Top Crop Manager. Their participation not only supports our webinar series, but also CAMA as a whole in helping to implement and expand our offerings to you, our members. We'd also like to acknowledge and recognize industry partners who have joined the CAMA National Sustaining Partner Program. These partners are committed to our ongoing focus of ensuring CAMA continues to be a dynamic, credible, and relevant organization for Canada's agri-food marketers and communicators. Our 4 committed partners are AdFarm, Bayer, McCann, and Real Agriculture. Thank you to these companies for their ongoing financial support. I'll ask Keaton at this time to turn on his camera and unmute himself. And finally, a few housekeeping items. Your questions, please type them into the Q&A box in the control panel. We'll answer these questions at the end of the presentation. David wants questions, so I'm asking you to provide me with lots of questions, please. This webinar will be recorded, and the link will be emailed to participants within 24 hours of the webinar for your viewing pleasure to go back to everything, all the wise words that David has spoken with us about. We'll also be sending you a follow-up survey to gather your input on the webinar today and to obtain feedback and suggestions on future CAMA events. I'll now turn it over to CAMA Manitoba's Vice President, Heaton Shaw, to introduce today's presenter. Heaton.
Thank you, Robert, for that lovely introduction. So, as Robert had mentioned, I am Heaton Shaw. I am a Key Account Manager for Glacier Farm Media. It's my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, David Lazarenko from ThinkShift. David, in his current role, is the Executive Vice President. He's also a partner at ThinkShift. David has more than 20 years of industry experience leading agri-marketers, helping various companies across the agriculture sector meet their short and long-term marketing goals. As David always says, ag deserves more, better, and that is his slogan. And that's something that we are going to learn more about today as well, too. As you can tell, this is the 5th edition of David's Agri-Marketing Trends. So we're all very excited to see what he has to say this year as well, too. Also, David is a very committed CAMA member. He's also served his roles as the president of CAMA Manitoba in the past, and currently he is the CAMA ambassador for our Manitoba chapter as well, too. And more importantly, he's the 2018 Agri-Marketer of the Year award winner as well, too. So please join me in welcoming David Lazarenko.
Hello, and thank you so much. I'm just going to pull up my screen here quickly and make sure that we've got everything working here properly. Is that coming through okay? Oh, hold on a sec. You got that?
That's good.
I'll take that as
looks
yes.
good.
Fantastic. So I want to start with a big thank you to CAMA and everyone attending this webinar, and really everyone in the industry. Agri-marketing has allowed me to have a very fulfilling and enjoyable career, and with some absolutely phenomenal people. This is agri-marketing is really my home. Has been for nearly 25 years now. So this is really a passion project and a labor of love for me. So I really do hope you get something out of this and see value in it. As Heaton mentioned and Robert mentioned, there will be time for Q&A at the end of this. So please, ask questions or reach out to me at any time. The only thing I love doing more than putting this together and sharing it is talking about this and anything else going on in the world of agri-marketing. Today, I'm going to go through, as they mentioned, 7 trends, 7 things that we can adopt today as agri-marketers, that we can start doing today to up-level our marketing. What I'm going to talk about a little bit before that is why I believe this is so critical right now. Why ag deserves better more than ever. As Heaton mentioned, the kind of a motto of mine. And I don't mean ag deserves better as an insult in any way. It is more a rallying cry. It's a long-held belief and motto of mine that really came from trips that I was able to take early in my career to New York, Chicago, and LA, where I saw what marketers in other industries and other areas were doing, and saw this fantastic opportunity and continued opportunity to go and find amazing new and proven best practices and bring them back to agriculture. And that's really been the basis of my career over the last 20 years is trying to go and find the best and bring it back to agri-marketing. The reason I say that I believe that agri-marketing needs this now more than ever is because some interesting times coming about. Interesting picture probably to start a presentation with on agri-marketing, but I believe, and I've seen this over my career, that marketing in agriculture is, for lack of a better term, kind of like the pinky toe. It's there and it serves a purpose, but it doesn't get a whole lot of attention. It is not typically a fundamental business driver. Is not typically the main focus of agribusiness and ag organizations. This is probably best seen when we look at those who kind of take on the CEO or highest leadership positions in agriculture. In agriculture, and I've done the research, I've actually looked at the top 100 companies in agriculture over the last number of years to see where leadership comes from. And very commonly, more times than not, leadership in ag organizations comes from research and development, operations, finance, or sales. Those are typically the biggest feeders to leadership in agriculture. If we look at many other industries, most other industries, the biggest drivers, the biggest heir apparents to the throne, so to speak, are coming from marketing, technology, and finance. Finance still in there for sure. The interesting piece is the area that actually takes on the leadership the most right now is marketing in other industries. Is that marketers are the fundamental shapers of business. And I actually think that we're going to see this shift starting to happen in agriculture very soon for a number of reasons, and for things that are really starting to unfold in front of us right now. The first one is, and this idea of moving from functional to formative. We're coming through a really interesting period where price-driven growth is coming to an end. We saw really increased prices across the board in agriculture, increased crop input prices, machinery prices. higher increases than we've ever seen almost in the past. And that's typically, that's coming to an end, especially as we see some of the inflationary pressures starting to end. We're also seeing that commodity prices are starting to settle again. They're starting to drop. And so there is not going to be this ability to gain and grow based on price alone. What it means is we're going to have to market our way to success. We're going to have to sell our way to success. With that is going to come significant increases in customer expectations. They're on the rise in general. Us as consumers in the world are expecting more, but in agriculture, even more so, as they're now paying more than they've ever had to for, especially the primary producers are paying more than they've ever had to. Their expectations are going to be higher than ever. Another interesting trend that is taking place, and we know this quite well at CAMA, and one of my roles as an ambassador, is that ag's talent pool is getting smaller. You know, agriculture has been having a hard time filling the funnel with new talent, new recruitment. And it means that the talent pool and the size of our market is actually shrinking when it should be growing. And what that means is it's going to be putting even more pressure on the people that are around to be doing more. And the last one is we see that there is a big focus taking place, a shifting of focus from innovation to adoption. Phenomenal innovation has and will continue to take place in agriculture. We see this in almost all areas, but we've always almost got to a place where innovation is ahead of adoption. The big piece is going to be that we need to see on-farm and in-industry adoption of this innovation for us to make the massive leaps that we need to. You know, at the end of the day, agri-marketers can't wait for the silver bullet to come from somewhere else. We can't wait for the magic R&D project or product or sales or whatever to achieve what is seemingly the insurmountable goals we face. You know, feeding a growing population and an increasingly complex diet on less land and with fewer resources. What that means is we must all step up. And marketing, I believe, is going to have an even more critical seat at that table than ever before. So how do we do that? How do we step up, and where can we step up? In a number of areas, through better branding, through improved branding. One of the main reasons why agri-marketers aren't effectively differentiating their brands is mainly two reasons: because they either believe they can't, or they believe they already are. Unfortunately, both cases are seldom, if ever, true. What I mean by that is, in agriculture, and we've seen this for a long time, and you know, we even use the term commodity in our market. There is a strong state of parity. There is a strong state of parity between the products and the services that are sold. There are absolutely step changes that take place, but there is, you know, in most regards, there is great seed product across the board. There's great crop input, crop chem, crop protection, and machinery across the board. There is parity, but parity is no excuse for a lack of differentiation. I think we believe sometimes that when there's such parity, we can't brand, we can't be different. And I think coffee has been the greatest example of this for years. Coffee has been commoditized for decades, but we saw, and we've seen in the last number of years, how even the most commoditized of products can be differentiated. We've also seen this in packaged goods. Automotive and electronics are all industries with significantly high levels of parity, but strong branding. And at the end of the day, this is actually, you know, a fundamental truth of branding, is that differentiation, if we go down the path of differentiating solely on features and benefits, it's the least effective and least sustainable way to differentiate. The main reason being is that features and benefits can be quickly and easily replicated, especially in today's day and age. We can, you know, we see this in many industries, and agriculture included, that you typically have a couple years where your product may be differentiated and then the others catch up.
So what this means is that we need to differentiate in other ways. And to do so, it requires us to take risk, to go outside of our comfort zone. And this is something we use. It's actually an internal tool at ThinkShift and something that I use. A longtime colleague of mine, Dave Hardy, he developed this. It's the spicy scale. And for everything we do, whether we are putting together a creative concept or a brand positioning, we look at making sure that we are doing something in each of the buckets, that we are looking at something mild, something that's straightforward, that answers the brief, so to speak, something that's medium, and then something that takes us to the edge, something that pushes us to think of a brand positioning, to think of something that is on the edge that not everyone is going to readily agree with. There is absolute risk in that. And that's where, unfortunately, the magic happens and the opportunity exists. If it's readily apparent to everybody, then it likely isn't differentiated. I know this isn't easy. Actually, genetically and as humans, this isn't easy. Embracing risk means embracing discomfort. And it actually means endorsing discomfort as agri-marketers. As humans, we want to feel safe. We want homeostasis is actually a bodily function that normalizes us. It brings us back to a normal state. We've also been taught from an early age that tension isn't good, but appealing to others is. And what this means is that we've been to push to greatness, to create discomfort, to use tension and risk. It actually requires us, we need to fight against both our nature and our nurture. But like I said, there's so many examples of brands that have done this. I always go back to the Starbucks piece, and even now Tim Hortons, Starbucks for sure. If you would have been in a room when the Starbucks genius pitched the idea of selling a $5 cup of coffee, or probably at the time a $3 cup of coffee, when coffee was the product that was served in a styrofoam cup and was in many cases given for free with the donut, you would have thought they were crazy. But we see the success. I am a massive fan of the automotive market, and two great brands that have used a fantastic opportunity to differentiate, Mini and Jeep. Mini is not the smallest nor the zippiest car, but they have created a brand that portrays emotions. They tie into fun. People see Mini as a fun brand, and they flock to it and they follow it and stick to it because of that. Jeep has one product, really one product. The Jeep Wrangler is the big off-road product, but they have created this sense of this off-road ready DNA in everything they do. The vast majority of their lineup are SUVs that have very little difference from the competition, but they've used this strength of brand and differentiation to elevate them and to create distinction in the market. This is fundamentally and fully available to us as agri-marketers, to look beyond product and features and benefits, and look at stronger branding opportunities, like branding based on an emotion, based on something, essentially a lifestyle, based on something that the consumer wants at a higher level. Another area, and this is closely connected to branding, but it is different, is brand strategies. To understand this, it'll be helpful to understand the difference, at least as I define them, between branding and brand strategies. Branding, as I kind of mentioned, is the act of positioning a product or service or organization for the purposes of distinguishing it from its competition and creating perceived value amongst its target markets. It's the positioning of a product. Brand strategy is the act of leveraging existing brands within an organization's portfolio for the purposes of driving and delivering business results. So big difference. It's branding is coming up with the brand and the positioning. Brand strategy is then how do you effectively use and leverage those brands as part of your offering to get the most out of it. In agri-marketing, something that I've seen is that one of the biggest impediments to agri-marketing success is the misbelief that all brands matter. Just because they're there doesn't mean they should be, or that they deserve your time, attention, and investment. This is critical. We almost all ag organizations have a large number of brands. There is more house of brands in agriculture than branded houses, which means there are more brands. There's a large number of product brands, service brands, portfolio brands. We can't approach it that every single one of them needs time and attention, time, effort, and attention. That is not brand strategy. It's actually one of the signs that you may not have a brand strategy. You know, some of the biggest signs that we don't have, or you don't have a brand strategy or may not have one, is that budget is spread across many brands. There's also, if you have, even if it's not spread across many brands, but fewer brands, but there's small differences in the budgets that you have against them, that's another indication. The other one is that brands are communicated in a vacuum, that essentially you have siloed efforts for each brand you're marketing, that you're not looking at the synergies, so to speak, between these brands. And another one is that equal effort is put behind promoting the company and product brands, that there isn't clarity as to what is the lead. Are you a house of brands where you are really, it's the strength of your brands, the product and service brands that matters most? Or are you a branded house where the name of the entity, the company, is what lifts all boats in the ocean? I love using Apple as an example because they do such a great job of brand strategy. It is interesting. We know that Apple has a large number of product and service offerings, but it is no surprise, and it is not fluke, that the vast majority of their budget, time, and effort still goes towards promoting the iPhone. Which you could almost make a case as a communicator and as a marketer makes the least sense. The iPhone is of all Apple's products, the most widely known, so awareness is significantly high and the highest engagement. So you can make a case that you don't need to market it. The reason they market it is because they know that if they get someone in with the iPhone, they get them into the ecosystem. And that cross-sell is a lot easier than new sell. And so they put all their effort into this gateway, I hate to use the term, the gateway drug, which is the iPhone, because this brand matters significantly more to that organization than the others. At the end of the day, brand strategies allow for 1 + 1 = 3. It allows you to use your brands in unique ways to derive greater value. As I mentioned before, using a house of brands versus a branded house strategy, there are significant benefits to both of these. Using brand extension versus new brand. Brand extension is essentially where you're using an existing brand and extending it into new markets, into new offerings, versus creating new brands to pursue those. Branded products versus branded solutions. So, products are specifically tangible goods. Solutions can include multiple offerings within them. Hero brands versus support brands. That's really a great example of the Apple strategy. They have key hero brands, the iPhone being the biggest one. That is their hero brand. Then they have support brands that follow. Most of the support brands don't get any, if, you know, little, if any, of the marketing time, effort, and investment. As I mentioned, I love the automotive market, and it's great because you can see brand strategy unfolding in front of your eyes, because it's readily apparent, and you get to see the product, and you see how, you know, the companies are positioning themselves. Then you know, just 3 different brand strategies at play right now. Hyundai, which was long known as being kind of the cheap Korean mid-market vehicle, entry to mid-market vehicle that kind of gave you great bang for the buck. They're using this whole entry into the electric vehicle market to really push themselves as a progressive automotive company, to completely change their picture as being this, you know, we'll give you more for less, to we'll give you some of the best, that we are progressive. And they're using design language as a big part of that branding strategy. Cadillac is essentially reintroducing itself through this market as you know, cutting edge luxury, as opposed to what they kind of had become was, you know, old person luxury. I hate to say it that way, but really trying to redefine themselves through the brand strategy in this. And as I mentioned, the whole idea of using brand extension, Ford using the Mustang brand to enter into the electric vehicle market, versus coming up with a brand new brand to leverage something that had trust and a following and a desire to open up a new market opportunity for them. Great example of a brand strategy. Better customer experiences. I touched on this at the very beginning about how the expectation of customer experience has elevated for everybody, not just our, you know, farmer customers and ag audiences, but everybody. We have all come to realize that great customer experiences are out there, and we want them. And not only that, when we have them or have had them, we want more of them. We expect them never to go away. And this is potentially one of the biggest fundamental shifts for agriculture and agri-marketing I see, and one of the biggest opportunities. We're getting to a place where experience is everything. What I mean by this is some unbelievable research that came through Harvard Business Review recently. So we're coming from a place where in the past, consumers used to choose their purchases based mainly on performance and price. This was the world of marketing, that better products with relatively better prices dominated. However, what has happened is that as product quality and production efficiencies have risen rapidly, we have entered an area where parity is common. So the world has gotten really good at producing really good products and services, is what that means. And what that means is that having a really good product or service is now a table stake. You can't compete unless you do. There's no room for duds. So what is happening now is that, according to this latest Harvard Business Review, over 70% of consumers now consider customer experience to be the primary driver of their purchase decisions. Which is amazing. That again, all things being equal, they consider customer experience to be the biggest driver of their decisions. In this new reality, products offering quick, easy, and enjoyable consumer experiences are expected to dominate. This isn't a surprise. We put our consumer hats on. the Amazon one-click buy, it's at your fingertips, ready to go, and it'll be there tomorrow. It's unbelievable. It is creating an expectation and a reality in all of us. Uber Eats, the fact that we can eat or get anything we want anytime, and we can get it quickly, that we don't have to wait 2 months for it, has fundamentally shaped our expectations. What this means is not just, oh my goodness, we now as marketers need to make sure that we're delivering great customer experiences. It means that we've got a whole new way to compete and win. A fundamentally massive opportunity for brands and businesses in agri-marketing. That the crazy part is now, even if equipped with strong products and services, you can lose if the customer experiences you provide don't cut it. Again, having competitive offerings is no longer enough. It also means that competitive offerings that aren't industry leading can still win if they can differentiate and deliver a better or more valuable customer experience. That is phenomenal. That even if you are not the highest yielding hybrid, if you are not the best piece of machinery, you can still compete and win if your experience is better. And we see this in our consumer lives. We see this readily. I don't believe anyone thinks that the products they're ordering from Amazon are the greatest products they can get. The other part, which is very interesting and we need to keep in mind is that the comparative set for ag brands and businesses has fundamentally shifted. And what I mean by that is these are the brands that and businesses that the agricultural customer, farmers, others in the audience will compare you against. In the old world, typically customers compare products and services within a category. So using the ag analogy, they're going to compare seed versus seed, combine versus combine. But they compare customer experiences across categories and even industries. They're going to compare the customer experience you're providing to the customer experience they had at Disney, with Netflix, with Amazon, with Air Canada. It's a fundamental shift. If they don't find you easy, enjoyable to do business with, period, it will reflect on your brand and business. The competitive reality for all brands, all ag brands businesses has forever changed now because of this. We are no longer competing in a world where the best product always and will forever win. Even if your product is great, if the experience to get to it stinks, your customers will start to go elsewhere. Big, daunting task, but amazing opportunity, massive opportunity to compete and win in a whole new way. Better results. What do I mean by better results? Results is one of those words that can mean a little bit of everything. It's getting more out of the effort you are putting forward. I have, and this is one of the things, and I'm sure many of you share this, is that we are now and forever tainted by the brush of marketing and branding, that we can't look at ads and brands the same way again. We will always look at it with a discerning eye. And I know this. I fundamentally will look at every ad online with a too much ad test. And what I mean by that is I'll look at it and I'll say, is there a single clear and concise message being delivered? do I know what this ad is trying to tell me? And the second one is, do I know what they want the audience to do? Even if I'm not the audience, like, can I actually decipher what the call to action is? Two very, very simple questions to ask, but something that so many fail. This is one I just found the other day. And I still don't know what they're trying to tell me or tell us. I actually don't even know who the audience is. I know they're trying to say, try our demo. I don't know what the demo is. I don't know. They also say view our testimonials. It is a dog's breakfast of messages, calls to action, and unfortunately, in this case, probably a big and significant waste of money for this company. And that's, unfortunately, it's true in agri-marketing as well, that we are not unconsciously reducing our own results, and that we can see significantly improved results simply by being more diligent with what we're doing. And some of the biggest ones here are, we can't deliver multiple messages to multiple audiences all within the same application or medium. We fundamentally know this as marketers. Trying to be all things to all people doesn't work, but we still have that tempting to, well, we got that little bit of space, let's put that second message in there. It fundamentally takes away from the one message getting across, especially in a day when our time and attention spans are fleeting at best. Delivering unclear or overly complicated messages. In many cases, delivering more information than the medium can effectively get across based on the audience's window of attention and effort. This is a great example, in the last ad that I showed you there, where it's, you're asking a set of online ads to deliver information that a website could maybe deliver. Wrong message for the medium. And lacking clarity of intention or having too many calls to action. If you've got an ad out there, we like to use the buyer's journey, is understanding where is the audience in the journey and what do you want them to do next, and making sure that that call to action and the message you're delivering is intended to do that. And again, not trying to target people in all stages of the journey with multiple messages. It just doesn't work. Unfortunately, many agri-marketing campaigns are built to deliver mediocre results due to common mistakes that can easily be avoided. What's more concerning is the fact that these mistakes are typically self-imposed, like I said, so our own poor results are self-inflicted. I will own the fact that there are things that platforms like X are doing that can inhibit our results, and there are things outside of our control in that regard. But managing our messaging and calls to action are things that we fully own, and we can see phenomenal results just by being more diligent with them. Some tips to help you with this, and I'm just going to touch on two different types of potential ad or communication placements and what to focus on, and you could see the difference. So if you are focused on awareness, top of funnel, beginning of journey type communications with your audiences, the focus is really on capturing the audience's attention and ensuring they consume a key message. At the awareness stage, they don't know about you. They don't care about you. So grabbing attention is key, and at best getting one key message across. Because they don't care about you and they don't know about you, to expect that they're going to consume any more than maybe one key message is asking a lot. in these cases, focusing on prominent placements and creative that will draw eyes to them and messaging that is concise and clear as possible is critical. It's a great way to look at this awareness stage is almost to consider these as public service announcements where the priority is delivering the message in the medium. Big reason being is that you can't expect that the person's going to, especially at the awareness stage, that you're going to see significant engagement. People at the awareness stage may click, but really impressions are what's key and getting that message across. So making sure that they don't have to click to get the message that matters, making sure you're delivering the message in the medium. Some great examples of this, just recently I saw these, not in our local market, but the idea of don't drink and drive. The message is in the medium, but it also ties in through the creative that really they're highlighting how critical this is at a key time of the year, at the Christmas, the holiday season, where unfortunately driving, after having a few drinks is much more commonplace. If we compare that to engagement performance tips, again, the engagement is, as I like to call it, is the focus is trying to entice an action. Awareness is, hey, take notice of us, put us on your radar. Engagement is, you already know us, we're on your radar. We'd like for you to do something. We would love for you to take a next step. So the focus, it should be on what action the audience should take, and even more so, why it's beneficial for them to take it. Not, of course, it's beneficial for you. Of course, you want them to take the next step, but they need to see value in taking that next step. And the creative and messaging that helps to elicit the desired behavior. I hate to use the term clickbait because it was such a negative thing, but we have to think of engagement type ads and placements as clickbait, as things that are going to elicit some form of action. Great recent example I saw through Dell. So learn why Dell Boomi has been named the iPaaS leader in more analysis reports and platforms. Read the report. Learn why we're the leader. Read the report. Very clear. They're assuming that there is a level of awareness already, and they are going to give you a free report to learn more. Not a complicated ad. Very strong understanding of who their market is too. People who understand what Dell Boomi and iPaaS leader is, which I am not part of, which makes me wonder why I did get the ad, but very clear call to action and definitely focused on the engagement side. Better creative. And I'm going to get into this one knowing and the fact that creativity and creative is subjective, not objective. And so I am not in this to critique creative as good or bad, but to look at it in a more objective lens and to look at how agri-marketers and agri-marketing can use creative to deliver greater results and to help us more significantly than we currently are. And I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room very quickly, the farmer in a field. I have got nothing against farmers in fields. They are what drives this great industry of ours. They are what matters most. But if you want to quickly and effectively create little differentiation in your marketing and your creative, use a farmer in a field image. it is used so much that it's become ubiquitous. We know one of the biggest challenges in marketing is the ability to capture someone's attention, is to be able to borrow for that fleeting moment, a moment of their time to deliver a message, to get something across to them. And so we need to know that we need to be driven by the fact that creative that blends in with other creative is not going to do that. It is one of these self-imposed issues. Something that, again, I hate to say it because it is not a belief that I don't like farmers, I don't like fields, but it is so commonplace that it becomes a part of the background. And there are a number of reasons. I think that, I've seen creative in agri-marketing hasn't been used to its fullest potential. I think one of the big ones is that creative is treated as an afterthought. This can, again, best be seen in many of the ads and communication materials where focus is almost on quantity versus quality. A large number of ads in not just our industry, many industries that are that it's like it's almost like a sell sheet and not an ad anymore. So we don't even think about the creativity. We just think about how much information, how much features and benefits can we possibly fit in here and deliver, and hopefully they'll pick up on something. If I throw enough messages at them, maybe one will stick. Creative is directed by non-creatives or non-marketers. I touched on this in agriculture. Many leaders don't come from the discipline of marketing or understand it, or especially creative. And so I think there is a reason why we see so many farmer and field images, because there's a belief that that is intrinsically what is most appealing to the audience. But they don't understand, again, the idea that it may absolutely be appealing to the audience, but if they see 5 of them in the same publication, then none of them are going to stand out. And so appeal actually doesn't work in that regard. And creative that doesn't push past the brief. And what I mean by this is that the creative, it has done a great job of honing in on what message matters most and has a great call to action, but there's nothing in it that creates an emotional appeal, that captures the audience, that does something or goes that next level up. Creative has both the power and ability to achieve so much. I've always said, if strategy is the logic, then creative is the magic. Because when it's done right, it can be downright magical. It could be absolutely amazing. It could be art. But when done wrong, it could be at best forgettable and at worst damaging. And it's our responsibility as agri-marketers to ensure we are leveraging creative to the fullest potential. And this is the power. This is the power of creative. First and foremost, creative has the power to differentiate. One of my greatest examples, this is probably dates me a bit, but I absolutely loved the diamond-shaped Shreddies campaign because it was all about creative. It allowed for a boring, poor selling, and irrelevant product to get noticed and compete again without needing to change or upgrade the product in any way. By playfully introducing diamond-shaped Shreddies, they allowed an audience to take attention again. They earned themselves a spot on the radar, and sales have improved since. Creative can also evoke an emotion. And one of the biggest things with with an emotion is that it'll create a deeper connection. If one thing just gets you on the radar, an emotion, attention gets you on the radar, emotion gets you into the heart. It gets you into the mind where they'll think about you after. I still think, one of the greatest campaigns in agri-marketing history wasn't even actually done by an agri-marketing company, was the God Made a Farmer campaign that Dodge ran, which was years ago. I think it's probably up to 10 years ago now. One of the issues now is that, this campaign, which was so great, it's now been almost done to death. That deep, kind of sullen, serious voice. We've seen a lot of it in agri-marketing since. And I'd love it to see, agri-marketers carving their own path and coming up with that next big emotional piece. The other one is that creative has the power to create lasting appeal. This timelessness almost. Not just a stickiness in the customer's mindset, but almost a fanaticism. I talked about mini before. The mini creative campaigns were so popular that they became collector's items. That people were collecting photos of the billboards, they were collecting snippets of the print ads, they were collecting these as like posters, as collectibles, as things that they wanted to hold on to for posterity. Mini was completely irrelevant for years until under BMW's new ownership, they reintroduced this brand with a fervor and a creative excitement. And some of the things that they did, both in traditional and in experiential and digital, are still groundbreaking today. And some of the greatest creative examples and a fantastic showcase of how creative can create not just an immediate but lasting appeal. Number 6, better strategy. Strategy is another one of those areas that is can feel subjective, but I feel like once you get it, it is objective. That it is one of those kind of soft subjects of what is strategy, what isn't strategy. When it's done right, it is foundationally amazing. When it's done in a mediocre sense, it delivers mediocrity. Couple of things that I like to say to my team and others is that generating awareness is not a strategy. Neither is training sales, engaging the channel, creating leads, earning media, or converting prospects. None of these are strategy. While these are all critical parts of agri-marketing and agriculture and any agribusiness, they aren't strategies or even strategic, as one can easily argue that they're all essential pieces to any agri-marketing plan. They're not strategic because you have to do them. You can't sell a product. There has been no product that has been sold without awareness being generated. Someone has to know about a product to buy a product. It's not strategic. So it's very important to understand the difference between a plan and a strategy. And at its fundamental level, where I see this is, strategy is the decision to take or not take a specific course of action. The plan is the details for when and how that course of action will be executed. There's, in my opinion, and I use this tool a lot to define the characteristics of a strategy, that strategic decisions or strategies are best defined that where the best course of action is not readily apparent. It's one of many and likely not the most obvious course of action you can take. The best course of action is controversial. And what I mean by that is that one can easily argue for and against it. That it's not, again, it's not like, well, let's create awareness. Well, we have to create awareness, so it's not controversial. The best course of action is irreversible or very difficult to reverse, or very difficult or costly to reverse. That if you choose this path, it's hard to just quickly turn around. You can't just all of a sudden switch it and go back. To help kind of convey this, I love pulling examples of strategy in action, especially in marketing, because I think it really helps to solidify what is and isn't strategy. As I mentioned, not strategy, generating awareness. Strategy, generating awareness solely through word of mouth. And anytime I put that up and the whole idea of solely through word of mouth, people think you got to be crazy. There's no company in the world that generates awareness solely through word of mouth. It's impossible. It is. GoPro has fundamentally shown that you can, through a strategic approach of providing the audience the means of delivering your message, can do it through word of mouth. They seeded the audience, they seeded influencers, they seeded everyone with product so that they can go out there and capture all these lifestyles that you can now capture with a GoPro. And they knew that the content would speak for itself. Phenomenal approach, phenomenal strategy that has paid off in spades. Not strategy, driving traffic online. We live in a digital world where our websites and our online presence is a fundamental part of our business. We know that that is where we can deliver deeper and more meaningful information. We know that's where customers and audiences do their research, where they get educated, where we can convert and nurture leads, where we can do all these things. Getting people online is not strategy. It is one of those things. It is a must. Strategy is selling direct through online e-commerce. Is strategic, especially in agriculture. It means that you are, in some ways, potentially circumventing parts of the channel. Dollar Shave Club, amazing example of this. Dollar Shave Club decided that even something like shaving supplies, that if they went direct, that they sold direct through e-commerce, that they could differentiate and compete against what was for essentially a monopoly for years in Gillette. And they have carved out a significant part of the market by simply doing this. And in many ways, by understanding that they would have a very difficult time competing for retail shelf space because of the dominance Gillette had, that there was a different strategy that could allow them to compete. Not strategy, creating a differentiated position for a new brand or product. As I said, differentiation is at the heart of branding. That is why branding started and exists. If it's not differentiated, then it hasn't been branded properly. Strategy, repositioning an existing brand or product. Taking a brand or product that was positioned in a certain way and repositioning it or reintroducing it. A great example of this was, which is now dated, of course, but Old Spice. Old Spice, I can still picture it on my grandfather's, the shelf in his bathroom. It was in this really strange bottle with a little cap that went in the top, had a very distinct smell. and was forever in my mind and for that generation. Through a Super Bowl ad and some advertising after, Old Spice reintroduced the brand as something different, as something for the mainstream, and did a phenomenal job. They took it to a place of fun, of uniqueness, of character, of all these things, and they did a really good job. And the last one, another example, is not strategy, incentivizing ag retailers to help sell your products. Engaging or incentivizing ag retailers. If you're selling through ag retail, then absolutely, they need to be engaged and incentivized to sell your products. You can't expect that the products are going to fly off the shelf themselves. What is strategy is if you say you're going to allocate 80% of your budget to an ag retail push strategy, that most of your marketing dollars is going to go to ag retail and co-promo versus your own marketing. This is an interesting area where you see a lot of the cell phone companies are doing this. When there's a new product launched for, let's say it's the new iPhone, the vast majority of ads you'll see for the new iPhone are the cell carrier companies. Basically, they're ag retail. They put the dollars into to support these companies because they know it's ultimately, that is one of the biggest places they're going to get this product. And last but not least, and thank you for hanging in there to the end, better ROI, better return on investment. And this one, it does have some ties into results, but results, again, as I've talked to them, are a bit more in campaign, in execution. And when I talk about ROI, I am talking in the larger sense of what is the return you are generating on your overall agri-marketing effort and investment. And I hate to throw math at you at the very end of this, but it's pretty simple math. There's simple math to return on investment. There's three fundamental ways to improve return on investment. More with more. So generating a greater return from an increased investment. Now, the important part in this is the return has to increase at a greater rate than the investment is increasing. Otherwise, you are not seeing, if they are increasing at the same amount, you are not seeing improved ROI. Generating a steady return from a reduced investment. So keeping the return the same, but reducing the amount that you're spending. Same with less. And then the last one is more with less. Generating a greater return from a reduced investment. Generating more, spending less. In agriculture and in my experience with agri-marketing, most of the time we live in more with more. A world where, as agri-marketers, we aim to deliver greater return, but look for additional investment every year to do so. If we had a bit more, we can achieve way more. There are also times where, when certain economic factors come in and we're in a downtime, we're forced to do the same with less. Where budgets are cut or frozen and our mandate is, we can't give you more, we're actually gonna have to pull back, but we want the same results. Where we rarely, if ever, live, but the biggest opportunity exists, is in more with less. And the reason why is it seems like that area that is it is unrealistic. that we fundamentally can't deliver more while spending and doing less, which isn't the case. Unfortunately, I believe that we're actually entering a time where we're going to see an end of more with more. You know, I already touched on the fact that, you know, the effect of inflation and seeing increases through price-driven, you know, adjustments are coming to an end. And so if revenues and margins have been improving because of price, we're going to now need to earn it. And mainly through market share gains and through cost savings. So market share gains, gaining more market, more, with cost savings, less. The other part, as I mentioned before, is that agriculture's inability to attract younger generations, and the fact that we're going to have a depleted or smaller workforce means that we're going to have to do more with the resources that we have, or the constrained resources we have. We also, I think, especially in our space, because marketing is so connected to the world of innovation and technology, we're going to be asked to really look at ways that AI innovation can help this. Where it can increase our ability and our capacity to do things at lesser costs or lesser effort. And I think the other part, and the last one here, is that there's been a lot of investment in technological investments. So whether it be, you know, CRM, marketing automation, e-commerce, SaaS, all these things have been put in place in ag organizations. And organizations, especially now with what's coming, are going to want to see significantly greater returns without more investment in that. One last piece, and I share this not to fear, but to create a reality of the market we're facing, is that there's a lot of conversation of the softening in ag right now, that we can see where commodity prices were and are going. And what that means is that spending from our audiences and our consumers and our customers is going to need to be earned. Ag is one of those phenomenal industries where the show must go on, but it is going to be a dogfight to win and compete in this space. And I do believe it's going to come to this world of more with less and really embracing this. You know, we're going to be asked to do this seemingly impossible, to achieve greater results than ever before with increasingly tighter budgets. The benefit, though, is that this reality has been in place in other industries for a long time. Others have been doing this, and we can learn from them. A couple of quick tips to help us with this is, and again, these may not sound like they are rocket science, but they are fundamental truths. Stop more things than you start is a great rule of thumb for any new effort or tactic you are considering adding to your marketing efforts. Force yourself to remove two. If you don't know if something's working, it's a great time to either figure out whether it is or to move on. If something is not delivering, either figure out a way to improve it or move past it. Reduce your budgets before others do. This is a great way that you can already force yourself into this strategic thinking, is when you're doing your strategic planning or annual planning, use a budget that's 25% less than what you had last year. Just use that number and see what it will do to your thinking. See how it will shape the way that you prioritize and focus your efforts. And the other one is start from zero, not last year's plan. This is a big one. And again, these are all almost like mind tricks you can use. Is that this is a critical step to ensuring that we aren't immediately assuming that everything we did last year needs to carry over. Whenever we start with last year's plan as the baseline, we assume that, okay, well, what's staying, what's going? I love using the analogy, and I believe I used it in one of these talks before. The idea of the best way to clean out the attic. Best way to clean out the attic is to take everything out and put it in your front yard, because you best be sure only the most important stuff's going to make it back up. Again, more with less may sound daunting, it may sound scary, but it could be phenomenal. And there will be some significant winners in this market who are able to embrace this and do it well. And with that, that is my presentation. So I will take some questions if there are any.
Thank you, David. Inspiring, exciting, and scary as usual.
Sorry.
I'm gonna take us all the way back to number one here. And this is your spice scale. And a question just came in as well, which is pretty much the question I had also come up with, which was about either the CMO's role, so internal, or the outside firm's marketing director, creative director role in helping the client, either the internal client or the external client, be willing to get spicy.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So first off, I think that there has to be at the very beginning innate awareness and understanding that whether it's the CMO or the outside party or both, that you're gonna push for spicy. That the others that you're going to be presenting to should expect this to be a standard part of the process. Setting the stage that you're going to go there, I think is a big part of it, because it means that they are already going to expect it, and they are already in some ways going to anticipate it, which is great. Another way is, when we do this, is it does mean that those parties should produce multiple options. And this is the benefit, and this is something we have seen, and I think it's psychology, but what we have typically seen, if we do a mild, medium, and spicy option, we will see inevitably something that falls between the medium and spicy. The mild ends up becoming just so non-impactful that it's like, okay, we just simply can't go there. And in the past, we've seen that actually, if we don't present anything, like that's where a lot of clients would go. That's where a lot of people would go immediately, because it solved the brief. But that's a big one. So those would be two ways that I would say immediately. And then, like I said, you gotta be willing to stir the pots a little bit and have the conversations and be brave to put something out there that even you might not be comfortable with for the sake of conversation.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that the term sweaty palms.
Yeah.
So roll with your sweaty palms, and if you don't get that client or colleague, then we haven't pushed far enough.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the truth. It's that, I love it. Like the best, there's an old analogy that the best creative should be scary. Like there should be a bit of fear in it, because you're putting something out there that is not just readily apparent. It's not consensus.
To build off of that, subjectivity is obviously a thing, and if we're talking about strategy or creative in this case, that's subjective. And data And data is obviously a big term, but is like a data component to this where you can take away that subjectivity and say, well, this is what the data says that where we should be going with the messaging or the creative?
Yeah, and I like absolutely, like I think data is critical. Data will give you insights. Data will give you information that you'll want to play off of. May help you understand what is and isn't going to provoke an emotion. When I look at, you know, especially for creative or brand or whatever it is, one of the most common ones is something like a focus group testing. And I do, like, we do focus groups, and I've done them throughout my career. And I typically give the same warning at the very beginning: is don't go to a focus group expecting the audience to tell you which one to go with. The audience will tell you maybe the challenges with all of them. You're asking for input, and you'll get detailed input on why each one might not work. And so you got to be careful with what you ask for, and understand how you're going to use that information. It's, again, especially with something like creative, if it's going to be something that is a bit more risky and isn't the consensus one, then it can't be just that overwhelming, resounding, okay, this is the one that everyone wanted, because typically that is the mildest one.
Yeah. I found too for myself is competitor research and throwing out on a table all the competitor messaging creative.
Absolutely. Yes.
In front of the client or your internal colleague, and provided that they're, you know, at the baseline or below the baseline, say we can do better than this, and this is an opportunity for us because these are a bunch of creative of farmers standing in the field. Let's do better than that. Next one is about the concept of spicy. Is it always emotion evoking? You talked about emotion. You also did reference lifestyle, but talk to me about the concept of spicy, if that's always emotion evoking, or typically would be. And if there is an emotion that's evoked from something that is put out there, is that a sign that, yeah, this is getting on the spicy scale?
It doesn't always have to. You know, I think when I use the term emotion, I mean that it's able to engage the audience just at a deeper level than, hey, I'll just look at it. That there's, so, you know, things like nostalgia, things like lifestyle, things like, wow, that, you know, that just really gets me. It's like, those are all examples of that. I don't have the right words for it, but it's again, something that creates a deeper level of engagement. It invokes or evokes a reaction, is critical. I think that's the biggest one is, and again, understanding, and this is the hard part. And this is another opportunity for the CMOs and the others when they pitch this. It's not going to be for everybody. But for the right somebodies, it's sure going to be for them. You know, a Chevy ad, a Chevy Silverado ad is not going to appeal to a whole bunch of people, but to the right people, it should really appeal to them. And that's completely okay.
That makes me think about what we talk about as a bullseye audience, right? You might have many rings of audience that you want to engage with or buy from you, but what's that bullseye? Because if it's every one, then you have to be quite vanilla.
Yeah.
Moving on to, so thank you for that. I think the evoking a reaction engages deeper, I think is good clarification on the term emotion. I missed the title of the second one. What was your second one, David?
Brand strategies.
Brand strategies. Okay, then maybe I didn't. Okay. So you talked a lot about a house of brands, branded house. And so when you got yourself a house of brands to market, what are some criteria to resource one, probably the hero brand, you mentioned hero brand, over the others or over another? And I think that was your iPhone example where I took the note of a lost leader with cross-sell opportunities. And so talk a little bit about the criteria to when you've got a house of brand to how to prioritize and say to the say to the team going, we're gonna put a lot of our love into this one brand and versus the other ones, and this is the strategic reason why?
Yeah, I think a few things. So first off, the one thing to clarify is it doesn't always have to be a loss leader. You know, the iPhone isn't a loss leader for Apple. It is just simply they know that if someone has an iPhone in their hand, their likeliness to convert to the many other products and services in their ecosystem are much greater. Sometimes it absolutely is. It's a loss leader. It's something that, again, you're willing to not make margin or significant margin on because you'll make it elsewhere. So that's just one point of correction there. So some of the things is exactly what you said. If you have the data and can get the data, have you seen that individuals who have converted on that product or that brand have been more readily able to convert on others? That you've seen that history that when we got a customer to buy X, they typically bought Y and Z as well. That's a great example. That's one of those definite ways to look at, okay, then that is a priority brand. That is a brand that requires it. Other ways to look at priority brands is brands, and this is where like new products come in. So brands that really help to differentiate the organization, that maybe it is a showcase brand. So this is the example of in the automotive industry, they all have flagship vehicles, and the flagship vehicle, they don't sell, it is not the highest selling one. Typically they sell the least units of the flagship vehicle, but it is the one that showcases how excellent organization can be. Those typically get a good share of market because they capture attention. They can capture buzz, they can capture things. So that's another one to consider. Another one is to consider, okay, can this brand, is it best to be sold through, you know, marketing, which is typically awareness and engagement, or through sales? You know, is it better to focus on cross-sell efforts internally, or is this something that really needs external effort? That could be a difficult one because you can make a case in both ways, but those are just some of those ways that you can help to prioritize.
Right. Moving on to number 3 here, which was better customer experiences. So you had mentioned just in a couple examples you'd given about convenience and fast, but I wanted to go a little bit deeper on that as it relates to what else. And I think about the pre, the during, and the post-buy experience. And I think I think maybe you even talked about this in one of the previous editions about that post-buy experience. And quite often, a lot of agri-marketers or people within agri-marketing or sales will not consider the post-buy as much.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, especially in agri-marketing where the cost of the purchase is so significant that there is a need to continue to show the love. It's important though, and I go to the idea of quality over quantity. This came up in a conversation we had recently, and there was actually a farmer customer and a rep in the room. And it was an amazing conversation because the rep was talking about customer experience and post-buy and this whole idea, oh, we want to give you the white glove, you know, multi-touch treatment and everything. And the farmer customer said, no, thank you. I'm busy. I don't need multi-touch. I don't need constant outreach. I don't need that. Like when I see you, I want to see you, absolutely, but I need it to be about quality. I need it to be something of substance. I want to know that I'm on your radar. I want to know that I matter. I want to know that you're thinking about me, but I don't need you to constantly bombard me. And we do fall into that. We fall into that whole idea of, oh, we'll just keep showing them love, you know, send a little something to them every week, every month, every quarter, whatever it is. And it just becomes noise. It just becomes so much. And so it's actually doing the opposite. And I think we see that too as consumers. It's again, you know, show up when I need you, not when I don't.
One last here, just looking at the time. Going to number 4, which is better results. I was a bit frustrated when you were having to talk about this, David. So why do you feel we're still needing to talk about this? And so you mentioned your 25 years of being in the industry. So from your perspective, is it getting worse? And is that because marketing and comms execution is just so darn complicated now?
It is complicated. Again, I don't think it's getting worse. First off, I don't believe it's getting worse. I think that in general, agri-marketing is getting more sophisticated and is doing a better job. I do think that it is difficult. It is human nature to want to just squeeze one more message in. It is human nature that when we've got a complicated product or services, we want to say more than less. It goes back to, I love the Winston Churchill quote. If I would have had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. It is hard. That's why. And so it's human nature. And so I don't in any way blame anyone for it. I fall into the same trap. So
Thanks, David. Heaton, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. Thanks, Robert. Obviously, thanks, David, for sharing your insights, expertise, and like Robert said, pushing the envelope. We always really appreciate you bringing your insights to CAMA. So we very much appreciate that. So in lieu of a speaker gift, CAMA will be making a donation on your behalf into CABIF. CABIF is a charity that provides scholarships to Canadian students who are pursuing an agricultural post-secondary education. Thanks again to our webinar series sponsors, CABIF and Top Crop Manager. Thanks to everyone for participating today and for supporting CAMA. If you'd like to learn more about CAMA, go to our website at cama.org. And again, thank you for your support today. And yeah, hope you guys have a good rest of the day.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.